With there being constant questions about who's going to make the Habs opening day roster, especially after losing RV Panad to injury, Kent Hughes is poised to make a move to bolster the lineup, and one insider suggests James van Riemsdyk on a one-year contract to bring into Montreal. We got to see what Marty St. Louis might think about this. Plus, Jesse, we got to get into some of the top lines for the Montreal Canadiens as Daily Faceoff has posted their most recent projections for the Habs lines, and, well, there are some interesting choices within there, so we're going to get into all that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. But before we do, I just wanted to ask you again, I do this occasionally, but guys, over half of you watching are not subscribed, and we post videos every single day about the Habs, all the latest news, rumors, reports during the season, off season, and if you enjoy what we do here and you want to be kept up to date every single day, hitting the subscribe button would help us out, and it'd help you out find the best Habs content. Let's get right into this, Jesse. Now, Daily Faceoff, I don't know if they create their own or if they pull it from somewhere else. That's something that's, I guess, to be seen, but regardless, they are kind of the hub for people checking out who's on what line for the NHL teams. A lot of fantasy hockey players use this all the time to try and find their sleeper pick in their next draft, but I want to just take a look at what they had for the Habs forwards and defense. And Jesse, when we jump into the forwards here, the thing that jumps out most to me is, of course, the presence of Alex Barré-Boulet, but also some weird combos with Armia down on the fourth and Gallagher up on the second. I know Gallagher had a good, second half of the year. There's a lot of weird stuff going on here, and noticeably as well, a lack of Joshua Roy. How close is this to what you think the Habs opening night lineup might be? Because to me, maybe they're pulling from somewhere else, but to me, I don't see this resembling what I project the lineup to be at all.
Not for myself either, but what they're doing, what they're weighing heavily with this prediction is experience, right? So they're putting a lot of guys, and even with the decors we'll kind of get into, that's getting a huge precedent, which we know with Kent Hughes is part of it, right? They give the guys their shot as they kind of get into that sort of age range, right? The first line obviously is not a question. Slaf, Zooks, Caufield there until Demidov comes.
True.
And then we can maybe experiment with that eventually and everything else like that. Until then, it's absolutely untouchable at this point in time. But right away at that second line, the questions begin right away with Newhook at center, right? You think with Kirby, Dach being that big guy, even though their face-off percentages are pretty similar in a lot of ways, that you would want Dach to kind of train a little bit more at that 2C role. I think they will be interchangeable there, but you can make a solid case for Gallagher being on that second line. But my take was, for a while now and before the season begins, that there will be a player that Kent Hughes gets for this second line. If that's not the case, then for me, this makes sense. I'd probably have Dach probably at center there, but you have to feel like Joshua Watt, he's going to be on this lineup, right? And he's not going to start the season maybe on that second line. Gallagher might get it if it's unchanged as it is right now, but Watt is going to be finishing this season on the second line, in my opinion. Again, barring getting that top six sort of player there, right? So, going from the third line as well there, I think if we're going on merit alone, you have to have Armia instead of Anderson on that third line, right? Absolutely, right? So for me, it's absolutely it. And then Anderson obviously slotting onto that fourth line.
Yeah, I think Anderson on the fourth makes a lot of sense based on his play. And I think they want to play him higher in the lineup because, he can have a big impact higher in the lineup. But I think you're very right. I think we see Armia move up. He's had some good chemistry with a guy like Gallagher, right? There's some interesting chemistry there. He's had good chemistry with Roy. Barré-Boulet, it depends on the camp as well, but again, he's a somewhat established NHLer. He's been kind of split between NHL and AHL. It's not crazy to see him in the lineup, but I think the lack of Joshua was the big thing. So we're going to move on to the defense before we get into this crazy JVR talk. Not a whole lot to mention here, except for, I guess, Lane Hutson being second pairing right away. They don't project Mailloux to make the team. No Reinbacher. I hear some people say Mailloux as well. Mailloux, whatever. So, I'll go with whatever he says, which I think is Mailloux, but anyway, we'll roll with it. But Jesse, Jordan Harris and Xhekaj slotting into that bottom pairing. We see there's no Justin Barron, no Jayden Struble. I think Hutson could make the team. Second pairing right away is kind of crazy, but honestly, a Hutson-Savard pairing could make some noise.
Yeah, definitely. And I see this being a very likely sort of kind of pairing to start off the season for our three pairs of defensemen. Again, it's the analytics go so much better when Guhle and Matheson are playing together instead of a Matheson-Savard sort of combo. So then again, you're getting that offense and that defense. Again, with that second line, love Hutson. I could see him playing with Savard even as early as that opening night. I know it'd be absolutely unreal. For that third pairing, right? we're having Harris there with Xhekaj. Again, Harris being more of the question out of anybody in this picture. I believe there's a good likelihood, and a lot of this is like predicated on camp and how that goes. Obviously, super important, but like, I think it's very likely that this could be it based off experience, off Harris having more experience at the NHL level than Struble. But for me, that spot is not safe at all. I could see very much for finishing the season, Struble taking that spot. Obviously, we got a couple of young guys as well that's going to get some playing time. So it's really there that it's good. The musical chairs are really going to kind of begin. But that's really going to be where the dogfight ends up going. But I'd really be surprised, if Struble doesn't end up getting that spot.
There's so much crazy stuff that could go down. Like, we're looking at the lineups, and there's like, for the forwards, well, there's probably 15 guys I could see in the lineup. And for the defense, there's 8 or 9, right? So it's going to be crazy. Let us know down below what maybe the most egregious omission or choice was in this list, because I know you guys like to have a lot of opinions just like we do. And I think this is the spot where we'd really like to hear your thoughts. But Jesse, we're going to quickly, without further ado, move on to the big topic of this video. And that is James van Riemsdyk. Now, a tweet from Marc-Olivier Baudouin came out just today, or I guess it's yesterday now. Yeah, 27th, so it was yesterday. But he said, I know JVR is 35 years old, but with the injury to Raphael Harvey-Pinard, I wouldn't be against the idea to sign him to a $1.5-ish million one-year contract. He's 6'3", 208 pounds. He only had 38 points last year, and now he says he'll go top 6, though he kind of brought that back in the replies. Said, it's not a must, but it's an interesting option. And Jesse, the more I think about it, the more it kind of makes sense. He plays left wing. His Corsi this season was surprisingly good, meaning his team was controlling a lot of the shot attempts when he was on the ice. Yes, it was only 38 points, and even the 2 seasons before that, he still didn't top 38 points. But the one thing with JVR this past season, Jesse, I think people don't realize this, is he had an incredible hot start to the season. This was his last 20 games after he got sick. He got sick during part of the season, I think injured as well. There was some weird stuff going on with him. He had a pretty rough end of the season. But in his first 51 games last year, Jesse, 37 points, 11 goals in 51 games. That's like a near 20-goal pace. I'm not opposed to this. Top 6, I don't really know. But when you look at this lineup, it's like, I could absolutely see a JVR sliding in here. You bump Alex Barré-Boulet out of the lineup, you put Joshua Roy in, and Pezet kind of that 13th forward, and you have a nice little lineup there. Again, I'm not totally sold on this idea, but it's not as crazy as I guess it first seemed.
I don't agree with the take of Baudouin having him in the top 6, for sure. But, if you're looking for roster construction, what's ideal for the Habs, having a vet in your top 6 makes a lot of sense, right? We know we got Demidov, we got Xhekaj coming, we got Newhook, we got Dach. Like, obviously, all of our first line, pretty young. Suzuki's starting to get a little bit of that experience, but a lot of young guys. So having a vet in a perfect world that can really score is the ideal sort of thing. We just see from JVR, kind of 11 goals last year, 12 goals the year before, right? We're kind of looking, if we want somebody in our top 6 to have a little bit more firepower. The question is, if he's not in our top 6, I feel like we're maybe taking away from a Joshua Roy, Owen, Beck kind of sliding into the lineup occasionally during the year. So for me, that's the problem. If he's not like a top 6 guy, he's kind of taking the spot of some of the younger guys as they look to kind of grow up the lineup. The thing about JVR is like, he plays like more of an offensive focused game. It's interesting to see the advanced stats though of his Corsi percentage still being good. But like, for me, it's like having an offensive guy, which is what the Habs need, is okay if, he's really lighting up the lamp, right? But if you're not lighting up the lamp and those old habits die hard, and everything of displaying more of that offensive focused game, I don't know if that's exactly what we really need. But again, if we're talking about 3rd line, 4th line, we have to weigh kind of taking a spot of a younger guy. I'm just not sure his production would even outweigh somebody who he's really replacing at this point.
True, but when you look at his minutes, honestly, even in that first 51 games when he had those 37 points, he was playing under 14 minutes a night. Like, that's 2nd, 3rd line kind of minutes, right? So it's like, I don't think he needs to get a ton of minutes to be productive. Now, he was also playing on a good Bruins team. He had some good line mates for decent parts of the season, and that plays a role as well. And if you're going to go stick him out there with, I don't know if we bring the lines back up, if you're going to go stick him out there with Josh Anderson and Christian Dvorak, will he put up those same numbers? Maybe not. I don't know. But there's a lot of unknowns. And I think he's a very talented player. I'm kind of on board with you. It's like, I don't see him as a top 6 guy. It could make sense considering Montreal's lack of depth in the left wing and, of course, was inexperienced. We expect him to be really good, but nothing is a given. What is a given is that JVR is still going to go out and probably be able to produce 30 to 40 points. And in a 1-year, $1.5 million deal, with a guy that has shown a propensity to play very well with good line mates. It's not the craziest thing, but what do you guys think? Are you up for JVR? Are you down for JVR? Let us know down below in the comments, because this is a bit controversial on Twitter, people discussing it, and while I don't think that I'd want him to play a significant role, it's really not the craziest thing, especially with one of these roster spots wide open. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.